You are listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I am your host, Celine Yeager. Each week, I bring you advice from athletes, scientists, researchers, and other experts to help you feel and perform your best, no matter what your hormones are doing. This show is a production of Live Feisty Media. Hello, strong, feisty women. I hope you all are well. So this past December, I came across this story in the BBC, and the headline was, Bramley woman returns to BMX racing after 34 years. And of course, I click on it and see what this is all about. And the story says, Sarah Jane Nichols, 52, from Bramley, Hampshire, won world gold in the girls over 16 title in 1986 as a teenager and plans to return to national competitions. She said after being, quote unquote, hit by menopause really badly, she had to give up playing ice hockey, which left her looking for another way to stay active. So Ms. Nichols said she restored her BMX bike and started to attend rallies. And of course, I finished the story, but not before I DM'd my friend Jamie Bestwick, who is a Pennsylvania BMX legend. And I said, you must help connect me to this woman. And he did. And what a conversation it was. As the story explained, Sarah Jane, or SJ as her friends call her, was a 7-time British champion, 4-time European champion, and the 1986 world champion in BMX. And now, 34 years later, at the age of 52, she has picked up her BMX bike again and is gunning for national championships, the British National Championships. And we get into all of it. Her history with the traditionally male sport, actually call that traditionally male sports if you include ice hockey, how she was knocked down for the count by menopause, and how she is getting back on her feet and on her BMX bike, and again is all in and gunning for this British National Championship. I freaking loved this conversation, and I am pretty sure you will too. Okay, before we get to it, reminder that I am taking voicemails to do a Q&A episode. It's kind of funny, after we did the 100 episode where we got all those great voicemails about what you get from the show, I expected there'd be a lot of these, especially since I get tons and tons of questions from in email and DMs and carrier pigeons. And it's been a little bit of crickets out there. I have a few that have come in, but I'm feeling maybe you guys are a little shy about reading your questions on air. I'm not sure. So I'll probably mix and match this episode with the voicemails I get along with some of the questions I get through other avenues. But you can still leave a question. If you are not feeling shy, you can leave them to speakpipe.com/hitplay. I'll put a clickable link to that in the show notes. Remember to sign up for my free weekly blog at feistymenopause.com, where I distill all the latest research and what's going on and what it means to you. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at feistymenopause.com. Come join our private Hit Play Not Pause Facebook group. And thank you for all the great reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify that are still coming in. I really appreciate them. If you haven't yet, please add the show to your automatic downloads on your podcast platform, which is just like hitting the little plus sign in the right-hand corner on the Apple Podcast platform. It really helps the show to continue to grow. All right. Quick thanks to Bonafide for their continued support of the show. They definitely have the secret sauce when it comes to vaginal comfort, as well as super lovely hair and skin serums and other products. They have been with us since the beginning, and I really appreciate them. So thanks, Bonafide. All right, enough of me. Let's have a few words about these awesome sponsors and get on with the show. All right, well, Sarah Jane, I am very excited to have you here. First, congratulations on your induction to the Hall of Fame. That's very cool.
Oh, thank you. That was a huge honor. It was it was unexpected as well, actually. But
yeah,
it was totally unexpected. I mean, you just never know when you go to these things, do you? It was such a huge event. I mean, they put out all the stops for it. They put out, the red carpet. It was a proper ceremony. I mean, it was like the Oscars for for BMX, but it was the first one that's ever been done. There's never been a British BMX Hall of Fame. So
Oh,
it
I
was
didn't know that.
all these years that obviously BMX has been going, like since the very early 80s. And there's not been a BMX Hall of Fame. So it was quite incredible. It was an amazing
Cool.
evening, absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Well, congratulations. And let's go right there. Like, let's talk about, your history. From my math, it looks like you started when you were about 11, right? Somewhere around there.
Yeah, so I was about 11 years old when I started BMX racing. Prior to that,
How
I
did
was
you get
doing.
into a lad's sport? And if
I
I'm
know.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but prior to that, what were you doing?
That's okay. So prior to that, yeah, I was doing a very unladylike, as we spoke about before on our emails. That I was doing schoolboy motocross. I actually, you know what? I wonder if my parents actually wanted a boy, but because yeah, so I've always been quite sporty. But yeah, my dad got me like a little motorbike, and then they took me like actually racing the motorbikes, motocross. So from about the age of about 7, I was racing schoolboy motocross.
Oh, wow.
And then it was only when BMXs, because probably there was no BMXs were around this time. We had grifters and chopper bikes and whatever, people just made up bikes that they pedaled around on. So because BMX stands for obviously bicycle motocross, so these bikes started turning up at the motocross meetings. And that was when they sort of started turning up. Then the kids would be pedaling them around, trying to go around the motocross tracks and just doing jumps and wheelies and little bits and bobs. And that was the sort of start of it. We were sort of like, oh, we'd like one of these. Everyone wanted one back in the early 80s for Christmas or whatever. So we did get our first bikes for Christmas. And from that, I mean, I was a little bit disappointed. I've told this story at the Hall of Fame because I don't know how much you know about BMX racing, but and especially in the UK, there was this bike called a rally burner, and it was a really heavy blue and yellow bike that was just absolutely like awful for racing or anything. It just weighed a ton, had these big plastic wheels. But everyone wanted them because you could just buy them in your local shop. They weren't specialized or specialist type bike or anything. But I come downstairs on Christmas Day, and me and my brother, we walked into like the spare room, and there was these 2 bikes, but they weren't yellow and blue. They were red. They had spokes, and they were pretty light. But in fairness, my dad had actually done a little research because obviously from the schoolboy motocross, he sort of like obviously was thinking ahead about me racing these bikes, and he had sort of invested a bit of time and effort into trying to find a race bike for us. So my first bike was a sort of a half decent bike. It wasn't the rally burner that I wanted that all the kids were riding around the streets on, but it was a it was a good starting bike. So no, that was really how I got into BMX. From that we had our bikes. My dad took us to a race meeting, and I won my first race meeting. So it's sort of like super exciting, especially when you have a win. And like when I was doing motocross, I was just riding around middle of the pack or racing around middle of the pack. No, so it's exciting. And from that moment on, that was sort of the starting point.
Were there other girls
in the motocross? There wasn't very many. No, not in the motocross. In the girls, and there wasn't actually that very many in the early days of BMX. It was quite funny actually, because when I first started racing BMX, they divided it into two groups. There was just juniors and seniors, and they called us powder puffs. So I was a junior powder puff. And there wasn't very many of us. I mean, not like these days. These days, there's categories from under 6s up to the 30 plus in the BMX world these days in the females. But back then there wasn't. But it grew over the years. Obviously, I was in at the very beginning in the early 80s. I was really lucky that because it was such a big craze, such a big thing during the 80s over here. I was lucky. I picked up sponsorship and had enough money to sort of get my first little car, made a little bit of money from it, even though I was sort of a kid, a teenager. But it was good back in those days. It was, but like I said, there wasn't that many women, but as it picked up, it did. But when I won the world championships in 86, that was 16 plus categories. So that was as far as it went. So, but there wasn't like these days where like now there's, like I say, 30 plus women is an age category these days. So it just shows you how it's evolved. I mean, it did go through a little quiet stage in the 90s. But like again, now it's really big now. It's popular again.
I watched the footage. It's amazing what you can find on YouTube. Like I watched your race. I watched the 1986 championship runs, like all of them against Karen Murphy. It looked like that
That's
was your main rival. And like the reporter guy literally was just like, not a very feminine thing to do, but we'll get into that later. But it was super exciting. Like you came that last home stretch, you were like shot out of a cannon. Like how well do you remember that winning race from 86?
that yeah, that race was, I mean, obviously probably that's the most memorable race for me ever. I mean, I can, even now if I watch it back now, I'm thinking that doesn't, I can't remember. I mean, I was last out the start. I was favourite to win because it was obviously the world championships, but I'd already won the European championships that year. I'd already had the #1 plate for the UK, so I was sort of favourite, and I'd won my motos, I'd won my heats, I'd won my quarterfinals. But then back in those days, you used to have to pick. You had your lanes down the start hill, so you had like eight lanes, and you had to stay in your lane for 15 meters. So if you're in the far left hand lane going into a right hand corner, you can imagine you're at a disadvantage, really.
Mm.
So you used to pick back in the day. You used to pick a peg out of a bag. I mean, it's all changed these days, which we'll bring up a bit later. But back then, you used to pick a peg, and I picked gate 8, which was right on the far left hand side, going, and I had to stay in my lane. You weren't allowed to touch the white line or you're disqualified for 15 meters before you could move over to, you could cut across. And it's going into a right hand berm corner, and so I think just then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've got, I was so nervous anyway. And the traffic light system start gate dropped. I don't know. I was just too nervous. Nerves hit me. I was last out the gate. I went pedaled my butt off going down the first straight. The girl next to me, the Dutch girl, she come off. So I crashed into her. Luckily, I wasn't riding. I mean, these days they ride clips, a lot of the BMXers. I mean, you can choose not to, but if you're over 13, you're allowed to race in clips, and a lot do. Luckily, no one used them back then. It was just fans all the way. But so I'd lost my footing, and I was just flat last. I was 7th because the Dutch girl had fallen off. I was 7th, and I just pedaled my way around. And again, you couldn't do that these days because the tracks have changed so much. But back in the day, there wasn't so many jumps. It was a lot more power and pedaling all the way around the outside of this track, all the way around, up from 4th to 3rd. And then, as you probably saw on the last berm, I was 2nd. Karen Murphy was ahead of me. Last straight, there was a set of doubles, and I was pretty good at jumping back in the day. And so I jumped these doubles. She rode the doubles, and I just powered my way through to the finish line. And yeah, most memorable race ever. I mean, like I said, I just relive it in my head. It's like, oh my God, I don't know how I done it. I mean, I don't know if I turn the camera around, you can probably see at the end of my bed here is, I don't know if I can turn it around actually. Yeah, that is me. I wake up to
Oh,
this.
oh, that's awesome. And you're in the air. You're on that
Yeah,
double. That's so cool.
yeah. So I wake up, and that's giving me my inspiration at the moment now that I'm
I love
back
it.
training to race. So I wake up in the morning, look at that, and think, yeah, I can do it.
So yeah, let's, like I said, it was funny because the announcer there was, talking to Karen and saying like BMX is not a very feminine thing to do. And I thought that was really funny when I read one of your quotes, and I can't remember what media outlet it was, but in your comeback, you said it was a nice ladylike thing for a 50-year-old lady to do. And were you throwing back to then? I mean, or
No, that was actually in reference, I think, even to my. I had no plans to come back to race BMX, to be quite truthful. I still have my 1986 BMX, but yeah, the one that I won the worlds on, and I had it restored, so it's amazing. It's exactly as I just showed you on that photo. Is what I've had it. It's back to, because it was sprayed in my sponsor's colours and everything after I won the worlds. They wanted to spray it and whatever, but I've had it all done back to like its original 86 condition. So my plan was with that, when my plan was just to sort of, and obviously we're going to hit on the menopause, but I was sort of struggling, and after I'd got some help and stuff, I thought, right, I'm just going to take things easy and just going to go to some of these like old school BMX. There's like a big old school scene over here of BMX, and sort of like sit in fields and display your bike and have a few drinks and have a little ride out down the beach or, to the pub and whatever. They do all these sort of events, and that was my plan. Basically, I don't know if I even did say ladylike or just a bit more relaxed sort of thing. Step back from. I've been playing ice hockey for years and done a lot of road cycling, and I just thought, no, I'm going to take a nice, relaxed, 50-year-old sort of like just sitting around and just enjoying that sort of thing. But no, little did I know what's happened now.
Well, so
I'm loving it now.
it feels like I want to dig into that a little bit, because when I was doing, some reading on you, like you just sort of threw out that, oh, I've been playing hockey for years, but you've really played ice hockey. Like you don't just do it like as a beer group on the weekends, right? I mean, you were involved for like 35 years. I mean, was it a profession for you? Were you a professional ice hockey player?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
There's actually, I don't even think there is any women's professional ice hockey here in the UK. But I did play at women's elite level for years and years. I played for England. I represented Great Britain, obviously when I was younger. And then like the last 8 years or so, I took a step back and just I played like recreational hockey. Was with just a group. I was the only female on our team. But it was just more for fun then, so I'd sort of done my years of, and over here in the UK, ice hockey's, they're sort of like I know, because I've been to Canada a few times, and obviously it's so big in Canada. I don't know different parts of the States and stuff, but over here it's like low priority ice time. So my training was at 11 o'clock at night, and matches, especially when I played rec hockey, like last 8 years, I had matches at midnight and things like that. It was crazy. But I mean, all those years of playing, I would travel to, because we didn't have, and I don't have an ice rink, they're not like on your doorstep, so to speak. But I'd travel up to Guildford, which was about 45 minutes on a Friday night from training from 10:30 to 1:15. And I'd done that for 10 years,
Wow.
It was a long time and a lot of dedication. I mean, I loved hockey. I did love it. I mean, menopause was one of the reasons that I gave it up. Actually, I retired from it.
What about it? Like, I mean, it does sound like you hit a bit of a rough patch. Like, what was going on? That you quit in like 2020, right? You put down ice hockey?
Yeah, that's right. So I've been playing right up until, I mean, COVID didn't help when COVID
Mm.
came along. I was hit, like the menopause hit me as well as sort of COVID coming along. And I was hit. I mean, I think I heard you say actually on one of your casts when I was listening back that sort of hit you quite quickly. And that's how it hit me, like literally boom. I was like, I mean, I had like perimenopausal, I'd had little bit from about 48. I noticed my concentration wasn't very good, especially hockey. I mean, lads would take the mick, it's like they, the coach would shout out a drill and he'd be like, right, okay, I want you to, pass to such and such, turn, shoot, skate round, blah blah blah. I would stand there go, oh, it just wouldn't go in, it's like as years, but
Like, sorry, what did you say? Yeah.
yeah, I just wouldn't sink in. I just couldn't get it, and I'd get out there and I'd go back of the line so I could make sure I'd be watching to see what we had to do, and then I'd still forget. And the lads they would just laugh at me. They were like, "What?" And I said, "I don't know." But at the time, I didn't really put that down to. I just thought, oh, perhaps I'm just getting a bit complacent in all these years. But looking back now, I guess this was part of the perimenopause, because then I started getting the odd night sweats. Then and there was they weren't very often, but they were coming, and then I'd have erratic periods. That was when I started thinking, okay, here we go, some heading towards it. Here it's on its way. But little did I know that when it hit me, it would hit me as hard. And to be quite honest with you, I'm still having issue. I'm still struggling with things at the moment, even with the HRT. I'm not 100% really. And I'm thinking I've got an appointment next week at the doctor, but I want to go back after this appointment next week to discuss hormones and stuff a bit more and see if there's something, because I am still struggling with a few things.
What are those? Can you share what those are? Like, what are you still struggling with?
Well, my brain fog, my
Mm.
memory is horrendous. Even now, even tonight, literally, I'm downstairs, I'm doing dinner, and I thought I'd run a little bit of water into the sink with a little bit of washing up liquid, and then 5 minutes later, I turn around. Literally, I mean, our houses are quite small in the UK. I've got a little 2-bedroom house, so my kitchen is quite tiny. I turn around, the sink's overflowing because I'm still, I mean, I'm literally like 3 foot away from it. It's overflowing, and I'm like, oh, these, and it's constant. It's day in, day out. I mean, there's a chap at work. I mean, oh well, I do. Men. Some men are really, they just don't always get it. This chap, he says to me, oh, I lose my keys all the time. I said, yeah, but if you started losing, okay, so you lose your keys 10 times a day. If you started losing your keys 50 times a day, you would know there's something up, because that's not your normal, And this is what I tried to explain, because this is what I get quite a lot. Oh, well, I'm always forgetting things. I'm always losing things. I'm always leaving my phone line. Yeah, but we do. But when it becomes more, that it becomes apparent, and people, I mean, my partner notices it all the time. It's just day in, day out. So that's one of the things I've got to go back to try and talk to my doctor about. Libido. I don't know how much to talk about things on here, but that was
We talk about everything.
Okay, that's cool. So that's gone. That went pretty much perimenopausal, and that's not really come back. And it's yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I
for,
mean, that might
for
be.
everybody.
You went to see a doctor and are you on a combination of estrogen and progesterone?
Yes, yeah. So I take a progesterone pill and HRT patch. I have had my dosage upped. The tiredness, I still feel really tired. I do, yeah, tiredness is a big issue. I'm always tired. So I am going to go speak to them, because I think there's obviously lots of things that can be done. And a lot of women do sit back and don't go to seek help, or just struggle through it, or, I think sometimes the older generation, I saw a lady the other day, and she'd seen my article about my one of the TV interview thing I'd done back along. He's like, I don't know why we keep mentioning menopause, this, she said, we have menopause just, and but now there's help out there, and you've got to seek it, and especially as I know that I mean, and not everyone's the same, are they? I spoke to another lady actually last weekend on New Year's Eve, and she said, oh, I've not really had hardly anything, a little bit of anxiety, she said, but I've not really had flushes, or not really had this. I mean, before I had like when I quit, when I was like the ice hockey, retired, I mean, I was having all sorts of symptoms. Like I say, when it hit first, it hit bad. The HRT has helped, but it did hit during COVID. It hit me hard.
Yeah, and your doctor might actually, I mean, when you mentioned libido and some of the fatigue, I mean, you might benefit from a little bit of testosterone thrown in there. I mean, that's part of the hormonal milieu too, and I don't think that gets talked about quite as much.
No, I actually, I've looked into that as well, and so I am going. That is something I'm going to. I think they do here
It's
in the UK.
approved for libido.
Yes, yeah, and tiredness, and that is what I'm
Hmm.
struggling with. It is the tiredness. I mean, I'm so tired, and although I'm loving coming back to my BMX and stuff at the moment, but it's still, I'm just so tired. I'm gonna be in bed at 7:30 in the evening, and it is just the tiredness. So I am going to mention. I think you have to have a test actually for testosterone over here in the UK. I think they have to send you for one. So I am going to suggest that, and see. I'm hoping that yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
My
should.
partner's hoping the libido.
That's not normal. It's okay to want to be,
Yeah,
to want to have these things in your life, to not be like super fatigued and have no libido. Like that's not an unreasonable thing to want in
yes.
your life.
So that's the three things at the moment, like the libido, the brain fog, and the tiredness. So that I am going to make another trip back to the doctors, and hopefully get that sorted. But like I said, the HRT has helped the other stuff. So I think I was saying I started like when I was about 50, and the menopause really hit me. It was more at night to start with. So at night time, I'd come to bed, and then I'd be going to the toilet all the time, having to go to the loo for a wee. So this was the stuff. I was like, oh my god, here we go, to the toilet again. Wait, when I got back, that would trigger a flush. So I'd have a flush. So I'd rip off the duvet, lay here like roasting, burning up. But this would also then cause me to have palpitations. So it was really bizarre. It was just this whole repeat every single night. So the palpitations would come, the flush would be there. I'd be led here roasting, windows wide open. My bedroom is like an icebox. And then of course the coldness after about half an hour, it's like, oh, you're so cold.
Right.
You've disturbed, you've woken up your partner. And then it's like, give me like, I don't know, another 45 minutes and I'm off to the loo again, so I go to the loo, and then it would be literally this whole like repeating cycle during the night, and I don't know how many times. And of course you are tired the next day, and I would just be moody. I mean, I had everything. I was like moody, I was irritable, had no motivation, just want to sit on the sofa. It didn't help with COVID being one of those. But during COVID over here in the UK, a lot of people were allowed to go walking or cycling things, and it just wasn't like me to be not wanting to do it. And we have beautiful weather. I mean, for the UK, it's like our weather's known for being wet and windy and cold and not very nice, which like is out there now. But do you know what? During COVID, it was as though God was like saying, oh, well, you've got COVID, we're going to give you some nice weather. It was beautiful. Honestly, it was like about 24 degrees, and every day, it was in April, and people were out, walking, keeping their distance and that sort of thing, and cycling about locally, and the things you could do, you were allowed to do. And there was me sat indoors, miserable, irritable, not wanting to get up, not wanting to do anything, crying. I was just crying, no reason. I mean, I don't know why I was crying. I would just cry. And I would know to myself, why am I crying? I don't know. I just couldn't stop. It was just, it was horrendous. Honestly, I laugh, but it was horrendous. Honestly, when the doctor finally phoned me back, I can remember the day, because you have to sort of make e-consults and things over here for the doctors. It's not always easy to get, and especially during COVID, it was even harder. When she phoned me back, I just remember being in tears. I was in tears to her, like, please help me. This is not me. I'm not like, I've been playing ice hockey. I've been cycling. I do an active job. I'm, happy, and here I am just miserable. But anyway, so that was really sort of the story that was. And then she did prescribe HRT for me, which has helped. So yeah.
Well, that's great. That is, I'm very glad to hear that. And I'm glad that you were able to get that help. I mean, I hear this all the time. I mean, there are a lot of women whose lives they're not anything like themselves. They're unrecognizable to themselves. And there's no point in suffering through that. That's just, it's unnecessary.
And a lot of people do go to the point, I mean, especially I think it's like a British stiff upper lip type thing. It's just go, oh, well, I'll get through it, and I'll sort of soldier on, and why suffer? Do you know what I mean? There's no point, especially if you're, just go seek some sort of, medical help, or speak to somebody at least, or, I mean, I did try some, like different alternative medicines to start with the sleeping and stuff. I think I tried some magnesium and can't think what else I tried, sage leaf things. I did try a few alternatives and stuff, and I think they helped a little bit, but it was still not, I think I just needed that little extra, and perhaps I still do now. Like I say, it's still not not the best.
At what point did you make that decision to return to BMX racing?
Okay, so that came about a little bit by accident. So like I said, I was planning on, so I sort of retired from the ice hockey because of the menopause. I mean, I can remember being on the ice and I had a flush, and this was during training, when I was already like, I mean, if you've seen ice hockey players, quite often you steam, even though the ice rink's cold, you steam because you're so hot from training. When I was already like roasting, and then I had a flush on the ice, and I thought I was going to pass out. And it's the one time that I've actually had to get off in all the years. I don't think I ever got off from training. I had to say to my coach, I'm going to pass out. I was all over the show. I was so dizzy. And that was so from doing that. And then when COVID hit, and the late nights, and then I wasn't able to train because they shut the ice rink for a while, and that and the other. So slowly, I sort of got out of doing it. And then with obviously the menopause, or the issues, I sort of decided perhaps I won't go back to ice hockey anyway, but I didn't really know what I was doing myself, to be quite true, because I was so low. But once I got the HRT, I I thought I made up my decision. I was going to do some of these old school, like I said earlier, take my bike and go and sit in the field and enjoy these sort of summers evenings, sat in a film with BMX, old BMX with some other friends, and do these little ride outs. Someone spotted me. I'd done this one called Santa Cruz, which is a Christmas one. You dress up as a Father Christmas or a Christmassy character and cycle around London. It's a charity event, all on old school BMXs, and there's probably about 600 to 800 of them. So when I first got my old BMX restored, I said, okay, so I wanted to really do Santa Cruz. So I got it restored, went up to London on my own on the train, up cycle around. Amazing day, absolutely amazing. I've just done my second one. But someone saw on my Facebook page from Andover BMX Club, which is the most local club to me here. He said, "Oh, you should come along to Andover. Bring your old BMX and chat to the kids. Now, like, come, see what the new BMX is all about. But the kids would love to meet an ex-world champion, and they'd love to see your old bike, and they'd, love to hear your stories." So I was like, oh, okay. So I sort of, I put him off to start with because it was December, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe when the weather's warmer. So I really didn't have any sort of plans to revisit like the new BMX scene as such at the time. Anyway, when the weather got warmer, it was about April. I had this message again. "Hi, SJ. The weather's warmer now. We'd still love to see you at Andover." So with that, I was like, oh, okay, great. So I took myself off down to Andover BMX track with my old BMX and chatted and done, sort of met with the kids and stuff, and it was quite nice. But of course, from that, they said to me, would you like to try a bike, a new bike? So it's totally different. The style of bikes are different. There's a lot has changed over 35 years. And I was like, yeah, of course I will. I've always been sporty, active, and that. So of course, yeah. And so they gave me a bike, and they gave me a helmet and some gloves, and off I went up to the start hill. And I don't know, it was just bizarre. I just went round the track, and I don't know, everything just come flooding back, and I was just like, how good this is. Oh my god, this is okay. It's all changed, and there's so much to learn, but oh my god, I was just like, this is great. And I even like a little bit of jump, I did a little bit of air over this. I was like, and they were like, SJ, you still you need to think about coming back. There's older classes now, there's a women's class. And I was like, well, yeah, actually, I'm loving this. I thought, to start with, I thought perhaps even if I just do it for fitness, because it's totally different. Oh my days, it's so hard work, like really, really hard work. And I know I'm older, but even the youngsters are puffing and panting, it's but I thought, well, even if it's just for fitness, so I started going along every Wednesday and borrowing a bike. And of course it wasn't it wasn't very long before I was looking at buying a bike, buying a helmet, and then literally now I'm back hooked. I'm training, and obviously you've heard that I've raced a few club races now where it's just mixed, just with my Andover club, so they just put us in together. But it's just to give you a rough idea. I've been to watch the new style of BMX in the new school. I went to the British Championships to watch, give me an idea of the competition too. and yeah, and I've been training really hard, and now like my training's I'm up in my training a lot now, because obviously the season starts in March. I'm just waiting for the regional fixtures to be announced. So it's been incredible. I've been out today, been around a little pump track today.
I love all of this. I'm very, I don't know. I'm not steeped in being a BMX enough. I mean, I know a lot of BMX riders. It's all different styles. When you say it's changed so much, like, can you tell me a little bit like about that? Like, what is different from when you were, 35 years ago? Like, what are the tracks like now? Like, what's it?
Yeah, so the track, I mean, both the bikes and the tracks have really changed. So the tracks hold a lot more jumps. The start hills are a lot bigger. They started coming electronically towards the end of the 80s, but now they're obviously all just electric. Then they're a great big barrel of a gate, it stands about 2 foot high. The start hills are a lot steeper, and the jumps, I mean, back in the 80s, we would probably, you'd go down the straight and you'd probably have one jump, one little to medium sized jump round a low banked berm. They weren't very high, they were quite low, because you could put your foot out and go around them. And then maybe, so you probably have one jump, maybe two, per straight. And bearing in mind, there's only like 4 straights generally on a BMX track. There's sort of like a what's the thing, like a safety, not a safety pin, a paperclip type shape, you know. So that was how come, like, winning the worlds, I was able to power away around the outside. These days, the tracks, oh no, there's like jumps. There's 4 jumps down the first straight in Andover. Then you've got a really high banked berm, and then there's another 4 down the second straight. And then generally the last straight, sometimes the last 2 straights, they have what they call a rhythm section. So it's all the pumping. Oh yeah, it's even thinking about the pumping.
It's exhausting. I've been on a little pump
Like,
track and it's amazing. Your heart rate just goes straight through the roof on those things.
exactly, they're great training. I mean, we've got quite a few of those around here now. They're quite popular in the UK, which is good because we never had those back in the day. There was nothing like that. We just have to go to the woods and, you know, with our shovels and dig a few jumps and stuff out, honestly, or put some wood on some bricks to jump off of, you know, things like that. But the pump tracks are great, and yeah, they are so hard work. I mean, there's no pedaling. I've been today and I've been practicing around a little pump track near here, and yeah, it's just exhausting. You just go around even like 2 or 3 times, and it's all on your arms and your legs, and the bikes, where the bikes have changed as well. So all the geometries have changed. The bikes are slightly longer now. We used to have the saddle up quite high back in the 80s. So when you'd go round the corners, the berms, you'd be able to perch your bottom down. Now there's like no saddle. I mean, well, there is, but it's just, I don't know, it's just for decoration. It's just down so low. Your knees, when you try to sit on it, your knees are up to your chin. And so I don't really know what the saddles are there for now, but I suppose it's just there in case you have to plonk down. But they're it's like so much strain on your legs, you know, on your thighs. It is just like I've been doing a lot of squats and bench presses and stuff to strengthen, to practice for these pump sections and stuff, because being the last straight as well on these new tracks, the pump section, quite often your legs are, that is where, I mean, when I've done these club races at the moment, this is what I'm really focusing on my training at the moment, is the last straight. The first 3 straights, I'm not too bad. Obviously fitness can always be improved, but the last straight, oh, that's my legs are jelly by that last berm, and there's not been much more I can give in that last straight. So that's my big push at the moment, is to get, yeah, that last straight, that last sort of like 5 seconds out of it. So I'm gonna hopefully get a personal trainer for hopefully I'm going to speak to him next week. Like, I'm waiting for a hospital appointment, which isn't great, next week. Once that's done and I've got an all clear from that, then hopefully that's the plan, is to get a personal trainer to just push me through this last sort of couple of months, you know, just to get, so then I know that when I go back out in March or April, when I get the season, when it starts, I've given everything for my comeback. It's like, and that would be the best that I can, you know. I've thrown everything at it. I've been training, I've been going to go to the track. It's hard at the moment with the weather and dark nights and stuff over here, but obviously it's raining a lot and it's dark by 4 o'clock, so it's not so easy to get to the track. So it's a lot of gym work at the moment. Just get to the track when you can, sort of thing, or pump tracks when you can. But I'm literally throwing everything at it so that I know when I come back, that's it. I've given everything. I've thrown everything, and that is it. It's the best I can do, you know. And I'm hoping it's going to be good enough.
So how much is the I have so many questions. Like how long is each run? Like how much does endurance play into this? I mean, do you have to build some sort of a base of endurance for it as well?
No, it's not so much endurance, because literally the races are about 40 to 50 seconds.
Oh, okay. That is really short. Yeah.
It's just really intense, but it's really, yeah, it is really short, which is good. But then you have the breaks in between. It always makes it hard. When I've done this winter one recently, just the club race, so we had like 50. I mean, it was quite, because there wasn't many there. I mean, the breaks would be longer when I race at the regional. There's a lot more riders, but there was probably about I don't know, 20-minute rest between races, and it was like -4 or something. It was so cold, and yet so your legs just, they went so cold so quick, and then you had to try and and it's like doing someone compared it to, someone told me recently, it's a bit like training or doing like a 400-meter hurdle race. So you sort of got that sprint element, but you also need to be able to have the strength to for the jumps and stuff, and
Yeah.
holding the bike. And yeah, it's really tough. It's definitely tougher than what I remember from the 80s, and I think it is tougher actually these days, like I say, with the tracks and everything being so many more jumps.
Do you do anything special for your recovery?
um Probably I rest the next day, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And stretch to the best. Like, I mean, it's literally, it does wipe me out. And this is another thing that I hope. I mean, I know obviously age when you get to. I mean, I'm 52. I'll be 53 in May, so it is going to be tiring. But I do feel that somewhere along the line, my hormones are still not like playing as they should be. Because I do feel it literally wipes me for the day. I feel like a zombie walking around, and I'm not sure I should feel quite like that.
I don't know, man. That's a lot of high intensity work. It's like, I think that it loads you up. You should
Yeah.
make sure you get enough. I'm gonna be like your mom now. Make sure you get enough protein. Make sure you like.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Is trying to eat a bit healthier. And I mean, Christmas is obviously a hard time for everyone. I've got so much stuff downstairs here, like chocolates and stuff. It's like, oh, I'm glad I'm off work at the moment. I work at a school, so I don't go back till on Monday. I'm
Oh
quite
wow.
glad when I go back, so I can take some of the stuff that, like chocolates and biscuits that are sitting down there, keep winking at me.
So have you? I have to ask. Have you hit the ground yet? Like I'm a mountain bike. Like
Oh,
I was a long time mountain bike racer, and my risk reward and like hitting the ground definitely hurts more now. Like, have you hit the ground?
I have, yeah, a few times when I first got my bike. And I think I went down about 3 times in the first month of me having my bike. 2 times was on a pump track, and they're really unforgiving because they're like tarmac all. And I think it was me being, I don't know, I think I hadn't really learned properly the new style of the bike or anything. I was still thinking like I was back in the 80s, and not taking into account that bikes had changed, the style has changed, where I need to ride has changed. I mean, this has been a good thing for me as well. I've enjoyed learning like all this new. It's been like learning a new sport, even though it's sort of instilled in me from all those years. It's still been like learning, when something clicks in place, you go, yes, I've just done that. I've manualed through that double, and we didn't do stuff like that back then. But when I first got my bike, yeah, oh, I took a few big pearlers. Yeah, I am trying to jump as well. I had to take a step back from jumping and remember that I'm not like as young as I was. I mean, it does hurt a lot more. I mean, I took a lot of skin off my shoulder, a lot of skin off my knees. I mean, it was in the early days and I didn't have, it was stupidity, I didn't have my knee pads on. Well, I didn't have any actually at the time. But the thing was, it's so, when you start like any new sport, it's expensive, isn't it? And I just bought a bike, and of course I had to buy a helmet. I started looking at knee pads, and they wear body armor. We didn't wear body armor back in the 80s. We didn't even have full face helmets. We just had like an open face helmet with a little chin strap. No elbow pads, nothing. Like I say, now they wear full body armor, and proper and knee pads. But I didn't, because I'd bought my helmet, I bought my bike, and I was looking at the price, like, oh my God, do I really want to spend £150 on some knee pads? Will I, because you're unsure in my mind for where I'm really going with this at this time. Back, a few months ago, I was like, I wasn't really sure it was just going to be for exercise or whatever. And I was like, in the end, I was sort of looking for secondhand ones. So it was taking time. Then I got some online, and then they were wrong size. And in the meantime, I was like, I'm going out training. Then of course I fell off, and so I learned my lesson the hard way by not having, my full armor or full pads on when I first went out. And now I make sure I always wear it now. But it
You have
does,
all of it.
yeah. But it does play in the back of my mind these days. I've taken a step back from like I say, jumping, trying to jump. You don't need to really as much anymore. You can pump through the jumps. I can manual like a wheelie. I don't know, we used to call them wheelies, but they call them manual now. Something else has changed. But so you can sort of manual wheelie through some of the jumps, and I can do that. So there's no big need to jump everything, or try and jump everything and risk you. And I do think about the risk factors. When I was training, there is a jump at my local club, and it was a real nemesis for me for a long, long time. And it was just going into the first bump. It was a big jump, and it was a bit too. You're going too fast to pump it, and it's too deep to manual through it, and yet it's the only way really is to jump it. Really, that is the only way. But because obviously I was having to sort of slow down to go to pump through it because I was going too fast to, it was just a real nemesis. It really bugged me. So I really did want to jump this jump. So I took a step. I was like, okay, so I'm going to practice on a small, and this was what I've done. So I've, rather than just go, yeah, I'm going to go out and jump it, I started on a small set of doubles and just jumping those and just making sure I was getting over it and building up and building up. When I was confident on jumping the small set, then I bit the bullet and I went for it on the one. And now, yeah, it's okay. I can jump it now if the weather's good. But I don't take it if I feel like I'm not going fast enough or I've been closed in with other riders around me, then no, I'll just, it does hurt a lot more when you're older. And this say recovery, if you get injured, it takes a long time to recover. You don't bounce like you used to. I know.
So the big event, you're training for regionals, right? In April. That's what you're going for?
Yeah. So the plan is for next year is for me to race the British Championships. So to race the British Championships, I've got to race at least 5 regionals.
Okay.
So in the local region here in the south, you don't actually have to place in them. You just have to attend them, really, race in them. But I mean, obviously, I'm hoping to place. But so that this is the plan. So the plan is to race the regionals and race in the British Championships, which will be August, the end of August. And yeah, I just hope, yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping to be, I'm trying to aim, I'm aiming as high as I can. We'll see.
That's exciting. Is there a class that goes above 30? Do you have an age class for 50 plus?
No, they do in the men. They do. They actually have a 55 plus men's class over here, but the women only go up to 30, which is unfortunate. There's a bit, it's not a massive age class really. There's at the British Championships, because I went to watch it this year, and a lot of the older riders do ride like a 24-inch BMX. So there was 21 30 plus in the British Championships. So there's not masses. I think there's a problem with women's and females in sport. Obviously, it starts off with the youngsters. I mean, there's so many like under 6 girls, under 7 girls, but you start getting up to like 18 and then the 20, and then it's really pitters off. But then, like I say, it's picked up. It's not 30 plus. As I said, there was 21 entered into the Brits last year, and I know that there's about 7 over 50 racing in. Yeah, and the lady that's actually currently British Championship is 52.
Oh, that's
British
cool.
champions. So it's given me this like, I mean, that stoked the fire a bit more because I know that I've got no excuses for her being the same age as me.
Yeah, that's
really
super cool. That is super
cool. I mean, the lady that comes second, she's more local to me, so I think I'll get to race her before I race the other lady. So they're my 2 that I've sort of got my eye on at the moment anyway.
Well, I'm so excited for you, and I can feel the excitement coming from you, which is very, very cool. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to like share with the audience if they're, I don't know, thinking about picking something up that they haven't picked up for a long time?
I mean, if you just give it a go, if you want to. I mean, there's no age limit. Age is a number, isn't it? Really. So, I mean, there's a chap over here, 76, and still riding BMX. If you fancy having a go at BMX, or you fancy having a go at, I don't know, trampolining, then just do it. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Just do it. And if you're feeling unwell and you're suffering, especially with menopause or anything, really, seek some help and yeah, no, hopefully that's what I can say really. I mean, I've done it. I'm just super stoked that I'm back in and having fun and enjoying it and getting fit and looking forward to the season coming up now. So, and it's also great because you meet people. It's a great social scene, and even if you're not sporty, then like I say, just try and meet up with your friends and stuff, make a telephone call, or whatever. Don't be lonely.
Yeah. Well, that's our show. Join me next week when I sit down with exercise physiologist and nutrition researcher, Dr. Abby Smith Ryan. We talk all about how our hormones impact our exercise and recovery needs, as well as what supplements you need and what you don't. So come on back for that one. And until then, as always, stay feisty. You've been listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I'm your host, Celine Yeager. The show is edited and produced by the strong, talented, and amazing women at Live Feisty Media. Follow us on social media at Feisty Menopause, and please help us spread the word. Screenshot and share this episode on your social media channels with the tag @FeistyMenopause. Share the show with your friends, and please subscribe, like, review, and rate this show wherever you get your podcasts. Word of mouth and good reviews make it easier for other listeners to find. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay feisty.